do that when we're here on this one. Probably should we say for the
Can't do like
YouTube video.
cheese.
Yeah.
It was, I'm not that insensitive.
Scott on the end, so.
Yes.
Hey, you know what really grinds my gears?
Okay, got it.
Do I need to move
On
over?
it. No, you stay right there. I like it.
Nice dick.
Oh, Lord, baby Jesus.
Jesus.
Does that make you
There are
uncomfortable?
many
No.
things about my mental health and psyche that are questionable and are still being evaluated.
And his
So I'm
choice
gonna-
in friends.
I'm gonna reserve that
You have friends?
answer for
Wrong with you?
some other day.
So what do you think if we started the show and I was just
This is
caressing your head?
And I'm like, just over here like.
Right.
His back's really bothering.
My back is bothering me.
Okay, we should probably.
Figure out who I am over there, so just give me 1 minute.
All right, get in there and get some.
What are we talking about?
I don't know. I thought you knew. Well, it's his show. It's your show. What do you want to talk about?
I will do what you said. I'm okay with that.
I have my hands in my lap.
She was talking to Scott. Hey. What did he say? we were doing?
That grinds your gears. Like what pisses you off?
No,
You don't wanna do that one?
I don't know.
No, that's fine.
Tammy,
just
hold
wanna be
on.
on the
We're not
same
ready
page.
yet.
I'm sorry?
We're not ready yet. Hold
I
on.
will not be ready for that one.
What do we want to do? It is a good topic to do. We'll do it on your
Oh,
show.
but we should be,
Or we'll
okay,
do it
yeah,
on mine. I don't want to do it on FE's because fucking Bobby will lose.
yeah,
his shit.
yeah. All right, let's do it
But
on.
that is
our
a
own.
good topic
Yes,
to talk
I
about.
agree. So do we want to talk about innovations? New things?
Yeah,
New technology? new
it's not a
things?
bad idea.
Sure.
What classes you're excited to see?
Mm,
The show
because
guy?
then you
Oh, the
leave-
show
then you
guy.
leave somebody out.
Yeah, that already happened.
Yeah, I forgot to tag somebody. I felt horrible.
Yeah, it is what
Are you
it is.
ready?
Yeah.
Don't forget the first time you speak or somebody introduce everybody.
It's his show, so he's got to introduce everybody.
Why do I have to?
Do you want to write down our names so you don't forget?
No.
Uh,
I can email it to you.
just make sure it goes to the right Dave.
Yeah, right, Dave. All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
All right.
No.
No. You're pointing at me.
I know, I'm behave.
It's the finger.
Okay.
All right. So we're live from FDIC again. I don't know which camera to look in, so I'm looking in both. So anyway, no, there we go. Now I know. Tammy told me. So Dave McGlynn, and typically I have my fire engineering podcast, Network for Success, but today we're gonna do a different, like every show that I ever do is different. So some of the faces that you see are similar. So it's not that we get clicky, it's just you kind of adapt to people that are like-minded and that you're friends with. So to my right, I got Scott McGonigal. And then to my left, I got David Mellon, David Lee Mellon. That's not his real middle name. And then Steve Hamilton. So thanks for doing this today, guys. So we're going to call it the Dave and Dave Show with Scott and Steve. And the reason why is because me and Mellon have been talking about doing a Dave and Dave show. And then Tammy pinged both of us thinking that we were the same person to have us do a show tonight or today.
Which ironically is not the first time that has happened.
Right.
And I guarantee you it will
No,
not be
no,
the
but
last.
it worked out because
think
we
the
were going to
mustache
be
would be
each
the different
other's
thing, yeah.
guests.
Yeah.
So it worked out anyway. But no, so I mean, we'll kick it off. We're just talking about, like before we started recording, we were talking about different topics that we could cover. And there's a lot of good ones. Some that I guess we can't talk about right now. But one of the things was just like what we're looking forward to going on this week, but then also the technologies, the updates. Mellon had brought up that as a suggestion. So I'll start with the technology piece of it, right? So I was just sitting in PJ Norwood's class, and some of the things he was talking about were actually pretty true. Is like we've been training firefighters to respond to different structures based off of the way that the contents used to be. And they're, call them the legacy contents, or legacy structures and stuff, but they're not like that anymore. So we're finding them to be burning at a more rapid pace, and that they're, that they're spreading faster. The ventilation thing may or may not actually be a good thing from time to time. We were always told, oh, you vent it and cool it down, so I obviously am familiar with this and I'm aware of it, but it's like, it's not being talked about enough because a lot of us are kind of at that point where we're at the 20-year mark. So we learned that old school way of how to approach the fires. And now we kind of have to unlearn that style and start looking at it.
Taking a step back.
Yeah.
Re-identifying or reintroducing, how we do business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
And then we have to teach that to people
And
too.
I like what PJ said, because I was in the class too. He's like, we were taught vent the fire to cool the contents or to cool the interior, and cut a hole in the roof, pop a window,
Yeah.
smoke lifts, you feel this rush of air, and it's fresh air, it's cooler coming in from the outside. And it's true, venting does cool things for a minute.
Mhm.
And then things are gonna get really hot. So,
Yeah.
and it's true, that's what it is. And the fact that there are studies that have pushed out data, the slide from the Governor's Island study, where it's like, oh, it's 800 degrees. And then we open this window.
Yeah. It's
and-
1800.
And now it's 1800 degrees. That aspect of it, when you're trying to talk and educate firefighters, especially new firefighters, and even the old salts, they're like, no, that way we've done it, and
Yeah.
it's the way it is.
That's the way we've always
Can your
done it.
bunker gear survive 1800 degrees? No. And everybody understands that. So it's like, well, hey, the environment's going to get to 1800 degrees. Probably a really good idea you don't do that.
Yeah.
And we didn't have that ability as readily as we do now. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, last 10 years, but it takes forever for that knowledge, that science, that technology to break through and get to the floor and change strategies and
Mhm.
tactics.
It's not even onto the floor, but it's all on the fire prevention side for the civilians too. Is now we're telling them, teach you close the door, keep the bedrooms doors
Yeah.
closed
Yeah,
at night, during the day, whatever door to prevent that.
That's true.
absolutely true. And I gotta say, I love the Dave and Dave show, but the Dave and Dave show with Steve and Scott just has it adds to it.
I like it.
Dave and Dave, that could be a radio show out in Chicago, but Dave and Dave with Steve and
With
Scott.
Steve and
just
Scott.
gives a
I
nice
like it.
ring
It does
to
have
like
a
it.
role.
It does.
I like it.
Just saying.
No, I think it's good. Are you gonna chime in? Was your
Yeah,
suggestion?
so no, I listen, I enjoy listening.
Get some bumper music.
Right,
Yeah, there
right.
you go.
So, yeah, I agree with those. Here's the one that kind of grinds my gears, right? So like, here's
You gotta do it in the accent.
the thing. Well, hold on a second, because this is, I've talked about this a lot, not just in classes, but I've talked about this in the fire service. So the thermal imaging camera, right, was coming around right when I got into the fire service. I mean, they had them in the military,
Sure.
right? And they were the ISGs with the,
There's a
yeah,
giant block on the
yeah,
handle.
and they still make them, right? So then the first one that I ever wore was a Carnes that it was helmet mounted, right? And it had the battery pack that you had to put on like a belt. The battalion chief carried around on their car because it was so expensive. They didn't want to have one on every rig. Then it was the truck companies only had them. Then it was, and so we've progressed now to the point where at one of my departments, they're doing a Fire 1, Fire 2 class right now. And I am still just absolutely blown away with the lack of information to the students on how thermal imaging works, how thermal imagers work.
Yeah.
And we're still teaching today that you can't dedicate yourself to that tick,
Mhm.
right? God forbid if that tick goes dead.
Yeah.
I've had a tick that I used all day long with the same battery and left it on the whole time
Yeah.
and it never died.
Especially the new battery technology. Not
Right.
gonna worry about that.
Yeah, a
So-
lot of them are really good.
Yeah, so I mean, not to say that something can't go wrong, but I always
Absolutely.
laugh when somebody says, well, if the tick goes down, they're not going to know where they are. Right, but if they don't know where they are to begin with, they're still not going
Yeah,
to
at
know
least
where
you
they
have
are.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
opportunity to do
Exactly.
stuff
Right.
with that. device.
Well,
Yeah, exactly. I agree with
Yeah,
that.
they're not gonna know where they are because we taught them to rely on the technology.
Mhm.
And when the technology goes away, then it's not there. But Jason Joanitas did a class today of proven truck tactics that work. And he mentions a tick with roof operations. You got to vent a fire. I can literally use a tick and find the
Yeah.
heat source, and it's giving you an
Yeah, why would I vent
Absolutely.
blindly when I have this technology?
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing, when you have a heated roof, you know, the difference between the decking and the actual structural members of the roof, the raft, you can see that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You can see the lines
yeah,
clear as day.
It's
Yeah,
protected.
so it's not, do I need the tick to perform the function of ventilation? No. Do I need the tick and without it, I'm gonna fail? No. But it's an extra added thing that makes your job easier or gives you clues that will allow you to do your job more efficiently
Mhm.
and in a lot of aspects safer.
Mhm.
You know,
Absolutely.
you're doing a 360 residential structure, 2 stories, and you're looking at the sides of the walls as you're going around, and you see a heat signature right in the middle where the floor joists are for the second floor. Problem? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, will we see that normally? No. How do we figure that out? You open up the front door, you poke a hole. Oh, well, that's bad.
Yeah.
Now you're getting to see it in that 360, just and using the technology just a little different.
Yeah.
Or just tweaking how you use it.
I agree. And just off of the grinds the gears thing. So I will say in respect to this conversation, right? So like, that's another thing that we're failing in the fire service is, so we have that mindset of this is the way we've always done it. So they don't want to touch the technology piece of it, right? The advances that we've come, the resources that are available, they don't want to touch that because they're ingrained in the old school way, which is, whatever. Then you get the young kids, what are they now? Gen Zers are coming into the
Utes?
fire service. Yeah, Utes, the
Utes.
two Utes. Yeah,
The
the
two
two
Utes.
Utes. Yeah. I'm sorry. What was that word? Did you say
Excuse me,
Ute?
You.
Yes, the youths. So I think that they're called Gen Z. So anyway, they're all about the technology
Right.
and not about any of the old school ways. So the thing is kind of us in that caught in that middle of that balance, that cusp or Gen X thing where we're spilling into the millennial, but before now, like I said, the thing that came after the millennials is I think Gen Z. They're in our fire service now, these kids. So we have to, you find out. No, but we have to find that balance on how we're going to marry the two skill sets. Because back off of what Steve said, you want to be able to teach good operations, just using the tick as the point of the conversation right now. So you want to utilize this resource, this great technology. Yeah, Gen Z. And you want to teach them how to use it, how it benefits them. But also you need to be able to teach them how to also search a room, not only relying on it. So coupling that old school way with the new technology so that there's that balance, they understand and respect what thing works. And then you have, this Rolodex, because as we all know, we go to these calls, nothing is always the same. So we respond to everything different because every type of emergency is different. So it could constitute us the initial stages of it, utilizing all this great technology and these great resources that we have. And then if that fails, and then we can still rely on the old school traditional legacy way, but the issue that we're dealing with, I feel right now in the fire service, we used to always blame it on, for years, everybody's always said it, that it's always a generational thing. Sadly, it really is more now than it ever was before because of technology. So though that was always the argument in the fire services about the generation thing, like the guys that were coming up in the 20s were, these kids today for the guys that were born in the 40s and so on and so forth. But technology wasn't at the level of advancement that it has been just these past 20 years in our lives as human beings. Like technology is overly advancing. You know what I mean? Like this phone has already been replaced 6 times already. You just bought it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's just, that's how it's going. So it's up to us in this fast-paced technology-based world where we come to FDIC and it's not undermining it. Everybody has this new shiny widget of this new cool tool that works for them. And here's what, for $59.99, you can buy it. And, it's like, yeah, got it. But we need to be able to train our people how to use these new technologies to their advantage when they're applicable. Just because this new thing exists doesn't mean you have to use it right now. You know, the square peg, doesn't fit in the round peg sometimes,
Sure.
yeah, but sometimes you could force it in. But we have to find that balance. That's where it's up to us, these people that are the cuspers, I call us, because we learned from the old school guys, and then we have been active during the advancement of technology, is to teach these kids that are coming in that there is a balance. We are living that we had to learn the balance because the technology started to come through from what we first learned. So, that's just, I think, like grinds my gears part. I feel like we're not doing a good job of teaching the balance of how to utilize and implement these advancements the right way. It's either one side of the coin or the other. It's either I'm old school or, well, they're old. They don't know what they're talking about. It's like, well, where's the middle?
Yeah, well, okay, so like I will say this, right? Like my 10-year-old had to teach me how to use TikTok, right? Like I didn't know how to use TikTok. He showed me how to. Yeah, like we got the little animation. But my thing is, I feel like we embrace the technology stuff a lot more, and I'd love to hear what people that are watching have
Yeah.
to say. If anybody has any
No, but
anything
that is
they
a
want
good
to
point.
add.
We're more open to it. now.
Yeah, so like I just bought and I bought a product that is used to stabilize an extrication spreader. I don't know if I can say names, but it's
Yeah, heaven forbid.
It's
Yeah.
a thing.
it's a thing that
It's a
sits
thing.
on the ground and then
Thing,
you use
it's
your
like some
extrication
metal,
spreader.
It does some stuff.
Anyway,
Stabilizes.
it's a stabilizer. Anyway, we bought it and I went on YouTube and I found a video and I sent it out to the entire group of the people that I was on shift with. And I'm walking down the hallway of my firehouse and I hear it in the bathroom playing. And
Yeah.
I walk in the bathroom, I go, what are you doing? And the dude's in the stall. He goes, you sent the video, so I'm watching it. I was like, bro, that's kind of weird. Right? Like,
Stabilizing in there.
yeah, like he was sitting there watching a 12-minute video while he was going to the bathroom,
Yeah.
but that's how they function. And so by sending out that video, it was kind of an unexpected consequence. I didn't expect him to be sitting in the bathroom watching the
Yeah, but it's
video,
a
but I
win.
thought it was
It's a-
cool.
It's a
Yeah,
winning
yeah.
concept.
Learning.
Yeah, but wait a minute. You
Do my best.
if you think about it, you do, because 10 years ago, you were sitting in the bathroom reading fire engineering.
Absolutely.
And that is
Mm-hmm.
this generation's way of reading fire engineering or whatever it is they're trying to learn from. And I think a lot of it is, there's been a big push of these kids coming in here, they got to put down the phone, they got to put this down, they got to pay attention to, this is how we do stuff. I think there's a big learning curve for us in training to learn technology,
Mhm.
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
learn these platforms, to
Mhm.
learn, the different apps and widgets and all these other kinds of things that hurt my
Not
head.
to step in front of you, but just, yes, and also be respectful to the new guy in the sense that information available, relevant information is good. You just said your 10-year-old had to teach you how to use TikTok. You're a grown ass man, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
that's the point, is some of these kids that are coming in, they might know how awesome this new thing is and how it could be
Yeah,
applicable.
absolutely.
They're now the SME. You teach the class, kid, show us how we can use it. Then it's up to us to fine tune when it should and shouldn't be implemented. But if I'm not familiar with it, but this 22-year-old kid is, bro, you're teaching the class. You're showing our guys how to use this thing.
Yeah, for sure. How many times you're teaching a class or you're having a problem with a video in your presentation or something,
Yeah.
there's somebody much younger than you in the audience. Yeah, well, you got to
Yeah.
right click this.
Yeah.
You gotta and you're like, huh?
Yeah.
And
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you.
yeah, that's,
Yeah.
there's stuff to be brought to the table, and empowering that opens up your ability to utilize that audience to get your message out in the first place.
Totally.
Well, and listen, back when it was a slide project, the thing that used to have the big round cassette that you put on top of the deal, like
Yep.
you knew how to use that. So
Yep.
you were the one that was telling the teacher how to fix it,
Yeah,
You're right.
absolutely.
You're right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. You're right.
We're talking about the training and the technology, but what about that apparatus, all the technology with the pump panels and stuff like that?
Yeah.
You're losing, I guess, how you call it, the customers, where we were in the manual throttle, the whole 9 yards. Now it pretty much thinks for itself. Are we producing an actual legit pump operator or
Yeah.
just someone to operate
Uh,
that electronic setup on there and recognizing, when stuff could be going bad.
100%.
Well, and the biggest argument that I've heard, which by the way, before I go any further, do we have anybody type anything on?
They just want to know when the Hopkins channel.
For real? Somebody typed that? All right, that's coming. It's coming. It's coming.
I caught the dig with the little disc thing.
The disc thing? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Shut
All right. All right. So
Not that old.
hey, at least I didn't say stone and tablet.
I appreciate it.
All right, so the fire truck thing though, and we're going through, we're specking a truck right now, actually an engine.
Yeah, I should-
Yeah, and so like when we had that conversation about getting a automated system or automated systems to do certain things, people were super reluctant. And what I had to explain to them is that the technology that we're using for these systems has been in fire trucks for 20, 30 years.
Yep.
I mean, electronic valves on pumps have been in play for years.
Mhm, mhm.
I mean, decades. That's not something new. All you're doing is you're taking a computer that used to just display what position the
Yeah.
piston, the valve was in. Now you're telling it when this happens, open it to here, or
Yeah.
when this happens, do it to this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, everybody was so afraid. But when I went and actually pulled the manual from some of the trucks that we've been running for decades, I pulled the manual and said, it's got that same exact valve.
Yeah.
It's just the newer version.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that goes right back to, okay, I have a tick, I can do search with a tick, but you have to understand the basics to doing search without a tick.
Mhm.
Right.
My first engine I ever rode on was a 1974 Seagrave and a 1972 Seagrave, and it's pull the handle. And if something broke, it was probably a cotter pin,
Right.
to get the handle back so that you could open the valve. Now, like if your electronics go, I mean, you can smoke the whole truck. I mean, it might even
Mhm.
run.
Mhm.
And you got taking it to mechanic, they're running the code and all of that nonsense. But how do you get past that? Because most of those trucks have a manual backup of some sort to be able to open the valve or do whatever it is you need to do.
Yeah.
That's just the example of them creating that back door and us teaching the basics and like, oh, well, why do I need to do it like this? I can just use a thermal imager. Okay, can I see your thermal imager?
Right.
Yeah,
Do it now.
yeah, yeah.
It's,
What's your
You know what I
thoughts
mean?
on electric fire trucks?
Oh,
Listen, so that's a great, I'm gonna jump on that grenade.
You know
I am
what?
jumping on that. I'm diving on that grenade.
for those that didn't hear, Scott asked what our thoughts were on electric fire engines or fire apparatus. So this is my response, so you know how I feel about it. Go on.
All right, so this is, we were just having this discussion the other day. So I think that there is a place for some of the technology, right? So I like the fact that the truck
You're
can.
very forward thinking.
No, listen, I'm a super forward thinking person, right? There's two places that I don't want an electric fire truck. One is during fire attack
Mhm.
and two is during anything on a fire scene, right?
Yeah,
So like, if you want to take it to a public education event and set it there and like, let the lights flash, cool. If you want to park it outside of a medical call, I mean, like, I gotta be honest with you. How many wrecks have you been on where you pulled up and positioned the apparatus exactly where you wanted it?
And
the exhaust
blowing.
is
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right.
screaming, you know?
I got it.
So I love it for that, but there's electric over fuel,
Mhm.
Yep.
right? And then there's all electric. I can't jump on board with the all electric. I'm still real weird about that.
Yeah.
But the
Boogie,
one
boogie,
that
boogie.
the one that can revert back to fuel if it needs to, I think that has its place.
Oh, so you're like a hybrid one. I'm not against that.
Yeah.
That because I agree, like that would have its purpose for like a lot of the things you just said. But an all electric one, I'll keep my mouth shut. I don't want to get in trouble. Hey man, I'll try it
You
out.
just say you're gonna keep your mouth shut so you don't get in trouble.
Yeah, well, because everything's so political now. So it's like if I have my opinion on it, then I'm looped into some politics. It has nothing to do with it. It's just my experience. I don't see what Mellon said about a hybrid. I'll be all about it. I'll be like, yeah, this makes sense. We should have done this years ago. But an all electric, I don't know. I'd have to play around with it. I'll just say
I'm
that.
not
I'd have to
referencing-
figure it out.
I'm not referencing what you said. I'm referencing the fact that it is got really, really cold in hell right now.
That he's even-
He's still on it. I'm not even throwing anything out.
So one of my goals here is to see one, and I want to be able
They have
to
it.
try it out. Yeah. And
Pierce
it's,
has one here, doesn't it?
yeah, I think there's a couple of them out there. I want to be able to see it. I
Yeah.
hope that they have one out there for us to look at.
Outside.
Yeah,
I agree,
yeah.
yes.
Like, I'm really curious.
play
I
with
want
it,
to
yeah.
see it. But I
Los
said the
Angeles,
same
yeah.
thing, and Scott and I were talking about this not too long ago. Like, I had the same feelings when the battery operated saws and the fans and the K-12s.
But they work.
Dude, they're awesome.
I can't deny that.
Hydraulic tools.
I can't deny
I-
that. Yeah, I mean, what's
I-
we use at
yeah.
work and they do a
So-
bang up job, man. I like them.
I was reluctant at first, and I said I want to try it.
I have a couple questions.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Question one is, any recommendations on getting the new generation to volunteer more of their time?
Ooh.
It's a tough question.
Tapping that knowledge of technology and
Yeah.
and different platforms and creating apps and
Yeah.
things like this.
But I also think, I mean,
Doing that
if
stuff for the department.
if it's in reference to them already having those people on their department, not recruiting them, but just seeing how they can get more time from them. It's the same as when you're in a leadership role and you're trying to, either push something new or try to get the crew built up. It's through like engagement and encouragement, but also through ownership, like task them, like Steve was saying, like we were talking about before, like if it's younger guys, you should probably pull them aside, be like, hey, like, I know that this is kind of something that's in your wheelhouse. You think you try to help us put a program together, and you believe it or not, like what happens is then that person comes, they get engaged, they kind of feel valued and warranted. Right. And then that spills off to 3 other people. Well, then those 3 people, it spills off to 3 other people, and then it just continues to web out from there. So I guess my advice is, if I'm interpreting the question right, if this person's already on your department and you're seeking to know how you could get them to be more engaged and dove in, then my suggestion would be, or I challenge you, is to go to them and find what their niche is, what makes them tick, and tap into that, and then try to see if you can capitalize on that to get them more engaged in what you're doing. And I promise, almost, I'm not even gonna lie when I say this, it's never failed me. That's
Yeah,
100% of my, like 100% of the times that I've done it, that strategy to get buy-in, it has always worked. And it's just through that one, Dave, you're really good at this. I know you're going to do well with this. Can you help me out with that? And then Dave's got 3 friends, and then boom, 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 and soon enough, the whole crew is engaged.
And sometimes it's just simply asking that person, hey, what can we do? To get more
Yeah.
time in or bought in from you. And maybe you'll pique some type of interest or engage in that conversation, and you'll find out through that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I got duped when I first joined the fire service. I'm telling you.
Like a military recruit.
Yeah, no, not like that. Cuga Heights Volunteer Fire Department in Cuga Heights, New York, suburb of Ithaca. My fire chief, Bobby Day, Robert Day. We had pool table. We had table paid for. We had kitchen. We had
Mhm.
like all these cool amenities,
Mhm.
right? And I'm 18, 19 years old. My
Clubhouse,
parents
man.
couldn't get me out of that fire station
Mhm.
to for nothing.
Yeah.
I'm like, nope, going to the fire station, going to
Yeah.
the fire station. And he duped me.
And they do me.
But- convinced his leadership, which was village council,
Mhm.
to allow them to spend money on these things.
Mhm.
I've been in fire stations where you have PlayStation and people are, oh, what are you buying? That seems like a ridiculous expense. You're making the station a place that people want to
Yeah,
be.
exactly.
Right.
You're making
If
it comfortable
if
for
it's
them to
just
be
4
there.
walls
Right.
like this,
And
no one's gonna hang
yeah,
out.
I don't have an issue with
if
that.
it's just an apparatus bay and an office,
Yeah.
why does
I'll just come
anybody?
in for calls. That's it.
But especially if you're tapping that younger generation with what they value and what they want, figure out what that is,
And then in
Mhm.
return, you get
And-
that investment.
and
Yeah.
then they're there,
Yeah, agreed.
and you get them and keep them in the station.
Well, and I think too, right now, and I'll say it, socioeconomically, right now, this is a train wreck,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
it's a train wreck. I
Mhm.
mean, I am on a career department. I also volunteer and I also teach. And so with my volunteer department, for me to drive to anywhere in my district, right? And we cover like 123 square miles or 120 square miles.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, right? And there's multiple stations, but for me to drive anywhere in the district, it's like almost a quarter tank of gas to go all the way there, all the way back to my house,
Mhm,
if I'm on call, whatever.
mhm.
And so, it is the $5 a call or whatever you're getting paid gonna cover that? No, you don't do it for that. It has nothing to do with that. But I've said this for years, if you build it, they will come.
Mm.
And so one of my part-time deals.
the distance.
Go the distance.
It's great responsibility.
So,
Paul said, thank you very much. That was exactly what he meant.
okay, good.
Mm.
So my thing is that if you want to give people something, it's going to be different for everybody, but I want to use this as an example. I have a chief who basically said, listen, if we have part-timers that come in here, they're helping us out, they're doing their thing. If we have volunteers that come in, they're helping us out. If they just got off a 24-hour shift at their full-time job and they're tired, let them sleep. Let them get their stuff done
Yeah.
and let them go to sleep.
Yeah,
Sure, why
amen.
not?
How many places have you been where from 8 to 5, it's nothing but busy work,
Yeah.
just because,
Yeah, just
Yeah.
because.
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
So
prove
that might,
existence.
Yeah,
Make us
so-
look good or.
that could work in certain departments, but then there's other departments that's going to drive somebody away.
Mhm.
So even something as simple as that, just having a policy where somebody goes, hey, did you hear about such and such department down the road that's hiring part-time firefighters and medics or whatever? Dude, if you bust your butt the day before, you can go over there as long as your stuff's done. You can go lay down and take
Yeah.
a couple hours.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's huge.
Make
Yeah,
the truck when the bells
yeah,
go off.
absolutely.
Yeah,
You're creating a comfort zone for them too. yeah.
absolutely. People will put out effort for that
Mhm.
more than they'll take advantage of it.
Sure, I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was
All right,
good.
What's the next
one
question?
more question,
Uh-oh.
and this is another one of those, if you don't want to answer it.
Go ahead.
What is your opinion about foam as a smoke suppressant?
Foam as a
Oh.
smoke suppressant.
Okay.
What is our opinion on foam as a smoke suppressant? Go ahead.
So I am, you want to take that? All right. So first off, this has been a huge debate here recently with the PFAS and PFOAs
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all that stuff,
I
right?
had the blood test.
Refo.
I have had the blood test as well. So
Man.
I won't name the department, but we had a bucket, like a pallet. What do they call that? The container, it's like 400 gallons.
Uh,
The tank.
The big
One's
ones.
got
Yeah.
metal bracing.
Tub?
Somebody, yeah, the tub, whatever. So
yeah, I think they did call it a tub, actually. I'm not kidding.
maybe, but
Reservoir.
there was a local department that bought the wrong
Google,
type
yeah.
of foam. So they called my department and said, do you want this? And my chief goes, yeah, sure. Free foam. Cool.
Mm.
It shows up on a flatbed and
Yeah.
it's, full of PFAS. So that scares the crap out of me. I don't like it. Now tote, that's what it is.
Tote.
Tote.
my
I
goats.
actually didn't
Now-
look that up. It just popped in my head.
I will say this, I'm a huge fan of the encapsulating foams,
Okay.
right? So like F500, Cold Fire, Fire Aid, there's a couple other ones. I have used that for years.
Mhm.
And not my department, but in my area, there was actually a huge fire. They went in there and they were putting out hot spots. And as they were laying that foam down, whatever it hit just stopped smoking.
Yeah.
And so it
I
really
believe it.
does.
I mean,
Yeah,
it does. I know it does
Oh.
work.
it works
That's
great.
the whole point of
So-
encapsulating.
I like it,
Yeah.
right? It's super expensive. I wish that they would come up with a more economical
Right.
option for us. But I've had good luck with it.
Would Dawn Bubbles work?
Yeah.
So it kind of does almost the same thing as far as getting the
Oh,
water
yeah,
down
yeah.
into the cracks, but yeah, that stuff is wicked cool.
No, I don't disagree. Yes. So I think a couple things. So one, it takes the fun out of firefighting. Not that firefighting should be fun, but it does. It takes the fun out of firefighting. You know what I mean when I say that. So that's one thing. But then the other thing is it's not financially it is well
Economically viable.
yeah, it is. It's really expensive. So the thing is like, so we've come a long way in regards to like what, the PFAS, PFO, learning that we were exposed to stuff that we probably shouldn't have been using. And that it actually was going to cause more problems for us than good. Right. So they've done a pretty good job, at least so far. We'll see, as time goes on, but I have faith, scientifically, they've done a very good job of utilizing safer foam,
Right.
and it works. I would just say it 100% works. I would just say that there's two folds on that. Is it's one, it's very expensive, And then it comes with the training. So because it's so expensive, you have to train people on how to use this tool. So if it's so expensive,
Yeah.
it's not really perishable that I can just go and do a drill. Cause like that just cost me thousands of dollars that I wasted trying to teach somebody how to apply this properly.
Yeah.
So that's the crappy part of it, is that we almost have to wait until a real emergency to use it. Then we don't know if we're applying it right. Follow me?
Sure.
And it's gonna
But
be
then
the
also-
same shift that used it last.
Right,
time.
right,
Right.
Right.
Because A shift always catches
Right.
the fire.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You know, but then also just that it takes the fun out of firefighting, you know, like I like to go in there and see smoke and feel heat, you know, but yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've been known to just kind of roll around in the smoke and, you know, take my helmet and
Yeah, dab it in there.
little dab. Little dab will do.
Little
Does
dabble
the
do
oven
you.
thing?
A little dabble.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. I mean, that's,
Well,
that's it.
I think when AFFF first came out and it had PFAS, but nobody knew what that was. It's the greatest thing ever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're adding bubbles.
Right.
Look what the bubbles do. And now all of a sudden it's,
Mm.
well, those bubbles cause a whole lot of lifelong chemical problems in your
Mhm.
body and,
Yeah.
it's kind of like to circle back around.
Nope.
The battery powered apparatus or battery powered any vehicles. It's great. We're not pushing out diesel. We're not all that kind of stuff. Well, when
Reminding
they
it.
catch on fire,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
really hard to put them out.
Yeah. So it's
and
actually
keep 'em put out.
worse. Yeah.
And then when the battery has finished its lifespan, what do you do with it?
Yeah. Yeah. Where are we getting rid of it? Yeah.
And when we get rid of it, is that going to be a problem?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like that is, yeah, it's great. It does this. It's super expensive, just like Teslas are super expensive. Am I supposed to say that?
Mhm.
Electric vehicles can be super
Yeah,
expensive.
they are. They're so
What-
expensive that you can buy Twitter.
But what are right? That's a good one. What's the lasting effect? What's the unforeseen consequence? You
Yeah.
you can't base everything off of that because
Yeah.
everything has an unforeseen consequence,
Yeah.
but that's my question.
Well, and I think our fire service, and I say our fire service, the American Fire Service, is changing so rapidly. We're beyond the point where we can project some of those things. Like
Absolutely.
we are so far beyond that point where I
Yeah,
can
right.
sit there and go, well, listen, I got about 12 years left. So
Mhm.
we're good for me, but you three are screwed in 25
Yeah,
years.
you're right.
And-
I
But
don't
I've
think
heard
we can
that.
project that.
Yeah, but I've actually heard that.
You've heard that, but that was back in the day or,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
years
right.
ago, you know?
Yeah.
And now do we say that too? Are we feeling that? Is that where we are? I mean,
I hope not.
No,
I mean,
I don't-
yeah,
I think that we've been doing
Time will tell.
yeah, well, yeah, it's just as anything, time will tell. Everything ebbs and flows, you know, all that. But I think that a lot of things that we're talking about is coming full circle. And there's even the questions that were being asked. So it's relevant to the topic. So it's actually worked out because we didn't know what we were going to talk about.
Sure.
You know, and we kind of covered the grinding the gears part and the
We did.
technology.
I had to
Yeah.
throw that out. I'm sorry.
Yeah, good job. Yeah. No, but you know, the reality is that I'm optimistic. This is where I'll be positive, you know, and that's unlike me. I'm usually not that I'm a pessimist. I'm a motivational person. I like to also just call it like it is though. So I will be optimistic
like
in this sense is everything that we covered, you know, the reality is that the future is brighter than it was for the fire service. We've come a long way not in the history of the fire service, just in 20 years.
Mhm.
We've come a long way from the way we were doing things to the way we're going to continue to do them. That I feel like technology is going to continue to advance. We will continue to have safer means of doing what we need to do, which is great. I also don't want us to take away from the fact that this is also a job that you get your hands dirty. So we still need these, and we don't want to talk ourselves out of these because then we quite literally will talk ourselves out of business. So that, and then training properly, training the balance. Technology is great. This is the coolest thing in the world. How do I apply it? When do I apply it? When is it efficient? Because we can buy the new sexy cool thing that we saw at the FDIC showroom and put it on our fire truck. But then when it comes to the day that we need to use it in the emergency and we never trained on it, or A shift trained on it, but now B shift's working and they didn't train on it. We just wasted thousands of dollars on beautiful technology because you didn't train them well on it.
Yep.
you know, or they used it improperly because they shouldn't have then.
They got themselves hurt.
So that's just, you know, that's, I feel like I'm very optimistic of where we're going in the fire service. What pessimistic, now I'm back to me, where I'm gonna be honest is just that our leaders, we're not doing the good enough job of advocating and cheerleading for the future direction and implementing it properly into our firehouses. That's what I feel. That's my final word. Go ahead.
I'm gonna start charging you by the hour to listen to you. And we're gonna get one of those chase lounges that you can lay on. Like when I was 12 years old,
There's a lot,
That's the
a lot
microphone
of demons
hanging right
swimming
there.
around in there, man.
what do you got?
I think can I watch that?
Yeah.
Like, can I just sit in the corner and just
Watch me just pour
I
out
mean,
my life story.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a
Brain
great,
dump.
I think it'd be a great show.
It would be, it would be.
I think there's gonna be tears. I think
Be
there's gonna
the
be laughter.
One-on-one,
Yeah.
Dave and Dave. show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
Um,
He's asking the question softly. Like,
yeah, you
I-
could sit there and, so tell me about your life.
I mean, I've been called worse.
Oh, man.
Go
I,
ahead.
I think,
We're staying under that.
Yeah.
I think we're in, as a fire service, I think we're literally at a crossroads, but a good one.
Mhm.
Because I think we're more accepting and able to pick the path of new technology
Mhm.
to solve the problem.
Mhm.
Or revert back to stuff that works.
Yeah.
And has worked.
Yeah.
Like, remember using a dry chemical extinguisher to put out, you know, running fuel fire.
Yeah,
Bill Guston was talking about that in his class
I
yesterday.
just did it a week
With-
ago.
Purple K, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
And two alternating firefighters with nozzles doing this, putting it out
Mhm.
and being the cooling factor. People don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
But it works.
It's it, yeah.
So I think the challenge is to understand that we solve problems. That's what the fire service does. We solve problems. Almost to the extent, and I'm guilty of this personally, creating stress because you perform better under stress. Like, oh gee whiz, I got a deadline coming up.
Mhm.
But it's kind of far away. So we'll wait. And you create that stress because you perform better under stress, right?
Absolutely.
So we solve problems. Let's just agree to that.
Yeah.
And we have this new way of doing things or new technology that can make things easier or safer or more efficient. And that'll work to fix problems.
Mhm.
But the old ways, the ways we've always done it, that might solve the problem too.
Mhm.
So basically I went from having my toolbox of tools to like 5 rolling Craftsman tool chests.
Yeah, but that's a good problem to have.
That it is a good problem to have if we embrace that.
Yeah, we know
And-
what tool to use when.
Yeah, and as training
how to use
officers, we have to be well-rounded and accepting
Yeah.
to the idea of, hey, man, that's a good idea. Throw that in the toolbox.
Yep.
We may never use it, but we might use it tomorrow.
Yep.
And do that. Be that.
Faux show.
Oh, shit.
We got there, honey.
All the problems we talked about, I still love being a fireman regardless.
Yeah, yeah.
But at the end of the day, you have the greatest.
There
job
really
in the
aren't any
world.
problems. That's, that's the point
mean,
that Dave was
there's
making.
problems
is
that we
that, you know,
tackle.
with
Yeah.
the future does look bright and that's kind of a
Solve
great
problems,
feeling to
yeah.
have. Just we need to marry the two. We need to, you know, bridge the gap as we continue to advance. What do you got there, Melon?
Yeah, what these guys said.
Mm. Greatest
No, I-
job in the world.
It really is, right? And I don't want to sound like a broken record, so I'm going to say something a little bit differently. I think COVID is the one thing that has pushed us over a hump that we've been stuck in for probably, in everybody that I've talked to, maybe like a 15 to 20 year hump,
Mhm.
right? So, and for my nursing friends out there, for anybody that's watching that's a nurse, I am not knocking on nurses. I love my nurses, right? Thank you for everything that you guys do. I know you guys have been getting the raw end of the deal during this COVID thing as well. But you look back at nurses 15, 20 years ago, and they were complaining that they were overworked, underpaid.
Mhm.
You know, they were out doing the orderly's job and they were doing all this stuff. Well, now you're looking at the fire department going, hey, so yeah, we spent all day yesterday disinfecting all the city buildings.
Yeah.
Because we're the only ones that are trained in hazmat stuff and this stuff will kill you in a week. So they wanted the firefighters to go do it, or we're overworked, underpaid, we didn't get our pay raises, whatever it is. I think this really truly has kind of pushed us over that edge where now we're looking at things a lot differently. And for me personally, I know a lot of people who have left the fire service because they wanted to go on to do other things. And I think that that's opening up a lot of doors. And so it's kind of that big breath of fresh air that we kind of needed. Maybe there were some people that were on the fence about leaving and then they feel like they're being wronged. And so they decide to leave. Great. There's the door. Thank you for your, 20, 30 years, whatever it is. And now there's the new people that are coming in. So I just in my area, and as I've gone and taught, I've seen a lot of turnover, which is, 20 years ago, I would have been really worried about it. Right. But now I'm looking at it going, okay, now this is the breath of fresh air that we need to be able to get that technology, to be able to get those new things, new tactics that they think are commonplace, but we might still look at as kind of the old,
Right.
I don't know about that. So no, I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's great. And it still is the best job. I mean, I still have a blast when I go to work. We
Yeah.
get paid to be kids.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. So I always say, I became a fireman because I didn't want to grow up, so they paid me to stay a kid.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Play with all the expensive
You know.
toys.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's it. Thank you, guys. There's gonna be more shows coming up. Dave McGlynn, Dave Mellon, Scott McGonigal, Steve Hamilton, live from FDIC. Love you.
The Dave with Steven Scott.
With
Yeah.
Steven Scott.
Dave and Dave show with Steve and Scott.
Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.